All of this coming up in today's episode of Drivers Keepers. The cost of what you're having done could have been...
Well, it could have been
astronomical.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Drivers Keepers. Now today we've got a really great episode for you because we're going down to, where is it, Simon? Leicester. To see Steve, who's got an absolutely exquisite collection of cars. We're also going to give you an update on my Murcielago, which for those of you who don't know, has now done 302,000 miles.
It has.
And yeah, we're just going to see how the suspension refurbishment is coming on, because that is going to become an eye-popping bill. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. So welcome to another episode of
Drivers Keepers. So recently we were invited down to Leicestershire and the Car Factory, a car storage facility with a difference, where we met full-on petrol head Steve and his incredible collection of beautiful cars. Hello folks, you join us here today in Leicestershire. Why are we in Leicestershire? I'll tell you. We received an email recently from a chap called Steve, and Steve said that he had a collection of some 28 cars, all of which were keepers. Do we want to come and see them? Yeah, we want to come and see him, so we're here. So, Steve, we've had a little tour of the place. We'll show folks in a minute your amazing setup, but just tell us very briefly what you do here and what the situation is.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, first of all, thanks for coming down, gents.
Thanks for inviting us, mate.
It's like inviting somebody to, I mean, look at this. How can you not like this? It's just incredible.
Well, we get all sorts of people saying it's like a sweet shop, it's the ultimate man's cave or whatever. Frankly, it's a dream. It's a dream, is what it is. But really, where it comes from is I wanted to create a car storage facility that was more than just car storage. I wanted to build a lifestyle around that car storage facility, so somewhere where people could go for a drink, they can socialise, which is why we've got the bar here, which is aptly named the Piston Broke. I'll let you work that one out. And we wanted to really build on that and also put events on here. So we have car-related events, and we also hire out our venue for our own customers and for external customers. So people have business meetings here rather than having them in a sort of clinical hotel, you know, next to a motorway junction.
You've really done a variation on a theme. So basically, a lot of people that do something similar have got car storage places. But you've taken it to another level, and you've got a club, you let people, you were saying to me earlier about how people come down at the weekend who actually have the cars here and they can tinker with them and detail them, and you've got all that sorted out, which is really incredible. It's just another level.
Massively kind of you to say. I'm humbled by that. That's really, really appreciate it.
It really is.
What I would say is, we all know about, you know, Caffeine Machine and those type of places. And they're brilliant, and I go to them, but they are one element. So you've got your Caffeine Machine themed sort of pubs, and then you've got your storage facilities, and then you've got event venues, then you've got car clubs. What I really wanted to do was bring the best elements of all of those together in one place. We've also got partners that we work with, so we've got partners that are in-house. We've got the watch boutique. You find, generally speaking, that people that are into motor cars are into watches.
Absolutely.
There's certainly a common theme there. So we've got that concession. We've got on-site detailing with MP Detailing.
I've got to jump in here because I can't help but keep staring at this DB6.
So
we've never even mentioned it yet, but it's just an absolute icon of a car.
So we should point out that I'll cut in some footage now of the storage area where customers' cars are stored. But this selection of motors behind us are all yours.
Yeah, they are.
You don't know what to say, do you?
Yeah, they all are. Yeah.
And there are some incredible cars here. Now,
really is.
A lot of them are covered, and we're going to leave them covered so that when we come back here to do some future episodes of Drivers Keepers, we can treat you to Let's
Yeah.
look what's under the cover, and let's have a bit of a deeper dive into whatever that car is. But we've uncovered 3 very special motors today that we'll just give you a brief snapshot of.
So as I was just saying, this is one of my favourite icons. I mean, if you're English, how can it not be? Steve, you've got to tell us a bit more about this. How did you come by it? How long have you had it? And what are your long-term future plans for it?
Well, first of all, this was my dream car. I've loved Astons ever since I was 10, 11 years old. And there's a little story with that with the next car. But to answer your question, I brought this in COVID. And there's few things you can thank COVID for, but what it did do is it brought this car within financial reach for me.
Right.
Whenever I go and buy something, I always look at what's the absolute best I want, how much is it, and how can I get there?
Yeah.
And there weren't many DB6s for sale, but Aston Martin Works had this for sale at Newport Pagnell, and it was a lot of money, and I couldn't afford it. But as COVID went on and on, it kept dropping in price.
Right. Interesting.
So I went and I eventually went and brought it. It started life as being purchased by a guy called Sir Kenneth Maidment, who was the president of Columbia Pictures.
Okay.
Columbia Pictures being the film company that made the Bond films, and also Lawrence of Arabia. And Sir Kenneth Maidment was best friends with Ian Fleming. He owned it for 7 years, and then it was sold then to a guy called Dr. Peter Player, who was Sir Kenneth Maidment's a private physician.
Right.
Dr. Peter Player, who I now know, and he's a really lovely guy, and I've spoken to him about the car many times. He told me the story that he was doing a checkup on Sir Kenneth Maidment one day, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing today, young man?" He said, "Well, I'm going to go and buy a car." He said, "Well, what car are you going to go and buy?" He said, "I'm going to buy an MG BGT." And he went, "Oh, you don't want to buy one of those. No, 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 no." And rightly, the doctor said, "Well, it's all I can afford, and it's a British sports car, and it's pretty good." And I'd agree with that. And he said, "Well, how much is it?" Now I can't remember exactly what he said, but let's say it was $2,500. He said, "Well, it's $2,500." And Sir Kenneth Maidment said to him, "Because you've done such a good job of looking after me as my private physician for all these years, you can buy my DB6 for the price of the MG
No
BGT."
way. That's incredible.
So he then brought this car from Sir Kenneth Maidment, then owned this car for 43 years. 43 years. During that period, he was private physician to lots of movie stars, but Russian ambassador. So I've got this image that this has been
Imagine the passengers that this has probably carried. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely. When Aston Martin brought the car, they changed the colour from blue to silver birch, which is what it was originally. They did sort of light restoration. As you'll notice inside, there's the patina is still there. Then set about using the car as a promotional vehicle to open new Aston Martin dealerships around the world.
Crikey, really?
Yeah. So this went all over New York, I understand. House of Aston Martin in Tokyo.
And this went there?
This went there, yeah.
Beautiful car. So Steve, just show us the next one in front of the DB6, because this one is even as intriguing as this one. Yeah,
there's a real connection between actually these two cars and me and the car factory and my passion for cars. So this is an Aston Martin DB24, 1954. We celebrated its 70th birthday here in the summer. We had a British event on. We put a party on for it, which was fantastic.
You put a what?
We put a party on for it.
You put a party on, fantastic.
Everyone had to come with Union Jacks and whatnot.
Oh,
and we had British food here, it was great. I've always wanted one because my father brought one when I was 11 years old, and it was an old car then. Do you know what I mean? They were pretty old then. And I just fell in love with cars, and I just fell in love with Astons from the moment he brought one of these. I love the sound of it, I love the look of it, I love the class.
And you were telling me, sorry to interrupt you, there's a couple of things about this car you were saying are firsts.
The wipers, it's the first car in the world where when you turn the wipers off, they go back to the set position. So they don't just stop randomly in the middle of the screen, which was very, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it's the world's first car to have a hatchback.
Incredible.
Which is pretty amazing, which massively helps the shape of this car.
Yeah, it does. It really
but different to the DB6, this is more of a sports car than the DB6. I mean, it's not nearly as quick as the DB6, hasten to add, but that's a lot newer. But what's interesting with these is that Aston rallied these, they circuit raced them, they took part in Le Mans. So they're a very versatile sports car, whereas they didn't do that with DB5s and 6s.
Right, okay. And is this the original colour?
This is the original colour,
right, okay.
Sea green.
Sea green.
Which, for those people that are into Astons and racing, you can see the similarity with the current sort of Aston Martin racing green.
You can.
I know it's not the same, but I think you see where it's kind of spawned from.
Really is.
This has got an optional extra of a racing steering wheel. It's got little nodules behind it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So you can hold it.
You've got a better grip.
What is interesting as well, you'll notice that the dashboard goes all the way along.
Ah, got you.
So it's not just in front of the steering wheel, it goes all the way along.
Yeah, and it's to the left of the wheel.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And the rev counter goes the other way around.
Oh, yeah, it does. Amazing.
Maybe if you come back in the summer, we'll get these two out and we'll go for a drive, and you will be blown away, and your viewers will be blown away by the sound.
Make bloody year with that. How many miles have you done in this? Oh, how many miles have you done yourself?
Well, I've not had this as long as the DB6. I've had this 2 years. I've had this. I've probably done 5,000 miles in this.
That's a fair crack.
Yeah, I reckon I've done nearer 10 in the DB6.
Oh, fantastic.
They get used, and my friends will tell you they get used well. Don't hang about with them.
Yeah. So
That's
they get properly driven. Absolutely, yeah. So Steve, let's go and have a look at the third car which we're going to feature today, because this is personally one of my favourites. I know I said the DB6 was fantastic, but I have a real soft spot for this one too. So tell me about your 328.
I could tell incidentally, because when you saw it earlier, your eyes lit up.
You
literally could see it. And I see that in people with cars.
Yeah.
I clock it. So no.
Well, I had one of these. Sorry to interrupt you. I've got to say, I had one of these in my 20s. I could never afford to run it, but I loved it, and I used to just sit in the garage and look at the lines, and I'm sure you're exactly the same.
It's art, it's art, and they're so beautiful. So the story behind this is really simple. Growing up as a lad, we obviously all watched Magnum, which wasn't a 328, it was a 308.
308.
Everyone confuses it with that, but I get why, because it's very, very similar. And I just fell in love with Ferraris, and in particular, mid-engine, two-seater sports car Ferraris, and always wanted one. If I'm honest, I never quite loved them quite to the same degree as the Astons, but they weren't far behind. Living in Leicestershire, we had a Ferrari dealership in Loughborough, which is a market town. But we had a Ferrari dealership there, and when we were younger, me and my mates, we used to go there and look through the window. Greypool. Yeah. We used to look through the window.
Lennerton Lane, wasn't it?
That's it.
I used to do the same thing. I probably bumped into you.
Yeah. It was great, and we used to look at these and we, oh God, unbelievable. Now that's no longer in Loughborough now; it's now in Nottingham. But I just, I wanted one day to get one. Well, I brought this at 19,000 miles, which is low. In fact, I think probably it's the lowest mileage of all my cars, actually. But I ain't stopped me using it. Not last summer, the summer before, I went to Le Mans in it.
Oh, brilliant.
Which was hell of an experience, and the weather was brilliant, so we took the Targa roof off.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, I use it a lot. It's not as comfortable as driving, say, the DB6, because it's a bit smaller. But But it's great, and the handling is phenomenal.
Yeah, they always sound as though they're working hard, don't they, when you're driving them?
When I'm driving this, it feels like it's grafted. Yeah, which makes for great engine sound.
Yeah.
But you do have to sort of be conscious of that. What I do love about it, which probably Simon caught earlier, is the gated gear selector. I absolutely love that. It takes a bit of getting used to.
It does. We're going to come back to this in a few months' time. Hopefully, have a bit of a drive out in it, because it's just, it's an icon. What more can you say? So, what can I say? I just want to say massive thanks, Steve, for taking the time to show us around your collection. As we were saying earlier, we're just featuring, well, we're not even featuring, we're just doing a little bit of a sneaky peek at the 3 cars we've looked at today. And of course, we're going to come back in the spring and we're going to take a look at all 3 of them in a lot more detail. So tune in for a later episode of Drivers Keepers when the sun comes out. Right, let's go and see how the Murcielago's getting on at Medina Rosso, because this is turning out to be a bit more epic than what I first thought. But that's supercars for you.
Yeah, it's more than just some bushes, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Let's go catch up with the Mercy.
Yeah.
So here we are at Modena Rosso with the Murcielago behind us to find out how things have been going on. Simon, what have they been up to?
Well, they've been up to a lot, haven't they, Simon, to be honest? I mean, what I really like is they've taken those suspensions out, get my words out, suspension arms off.
Yes.
Which are best part of £4,000 each. We talked about that in the last video. They've powder coated them. They've been painted matte black, and they look absolutely stunning.
They look like new, don't they?
Yeah, you probably see a picture popping up now on the screen, but yeah, they look really, really nice.
Yeah. Likewise
with the anti-roll bar, they've done the same there. But the main thing is all those arms have now got bushes in them, which, you know, is just a massive saving from buying the arm itself.
And am I right in thinking they've done ball joints as well?
Ball joints too, so they've all been done.
Yeah.
We've got the steering rack, which at the same time, we've had that taken out.
Oh, was that unexpected, or did
you... what actually happened with that was, it's quite funny this, Jamie, who runs Medina Rosso with Matt, had rung a local steering specialist and said, look, how much can you quote us for rebuilding this rack, which is all new seals and oil and everything else? And they come back and said, what's it off? Well, it's a Lamborghini Murcielago, and they come back with £800 plus VAT. Now,
you've got a name for that, haven't you? Lamborghini tax.
Lamborghini tax. It's the same as supercar tax, isn't it? But the point was, I went down there incognito.
Right, clever.
Pleading ignorance about the origin of this steering rack I had in the back of my Golf. Right. To say that I'm just here with this rack, can you rebuild it?
Yeah.
And they took a long, hard look at it. An old chap there said, I think it's off a Talbot Horizon. And quoted me 280 quid.
Talbot Horizon, for those who might not know, 1980s?
Oh, it's got to be 1980s.
1980s hatchback. Piece of leather, not there.
Yeah. Well, he actually, to be fair, he actually said it looks like it's off a Talbot Horizon to me, because I said I'm just bringing it from a garage.
And quoted you how much?
280 quid, including that. So it was an absolute result, and the steering rack's come back. And to be fair to them, whether it's 800 quid or 280 quid doesn't matter, because it's come back. And they've painted it. They've used 2-pack primer, is it called?
Wow, yeah.
And then they've painted it all. They've done all the seals. They've changed all the oil, gaskets, gaiters. It is like, well, it's brand new.
Yeah, it's like we were saying about the arms. There was nothing wrong with the arms.
No.
Replacing the arms is ridiculous.
No.
You replace the bits that have worn out. Same with the rack. You don't need a new rack. You just replace the bits inside.
Exactly. And you're talking $4,500. For a new rack,
of course you are, yeah.
You know, which is just you know, and it's like with tomorrow. I'm going down. People watching, I'm going down to Nitron in Oxford tomorrow, Whitney in Oxford, to pick up the coilovers, because the coilovers have just been refurbished. Nitron offer a service for people who've got Nitrons, by the way, where they do the same thing as the rack. They strip everything down, put new gaskets, seals, oil in, and everything else. And I think it's going to cost me in the best part of 1,100 quid. Right. But these are going to be like brand new. Yeah. Now, unbelievably, each of those coilovers, the original ones from Lamborghini, at 8,000 quid each. So you're talking 6 on a Murcielago. So what you're talking, nearly 50 grand.
So the cost of what you're having done could have been
Well, it could have been
astronomical.
astronomical. Yeah, if you just had carte blanche to write checks,
Yeah.
you know, to get something like this restored,
Yeah.
and you don't do your homework, and this is part of owning a
Yeah, of
supercar,
course it
narrowing down what you can save money on.
Yeah.
Then you know the sky's the limit. It's helicopter money, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
ridiculous.
like, you know, it's crazy. So
It doesn't
yeah.
have to be that
It
expensive
doesn't
to run
have to
something
be.
like this if you've got your wits about you.
Correct. And I mean, we find this with Ferraris, where we
Yeah.
find a lot of the bits on there from Fiat's, clearly, because Fiat owned
Yeah.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
With Lamborghinis, a lot of Audi parts on it, especially
Yeah.
the more modern ones. And again, if you can do your
Ford
homework...
Focus.
Ford Focus, yeah. Which I
Indicator
glued in with super glue because it fell off in Italy. So poor old Matty is going to
Trying to get it off.
Trying to get it off. He's going to break it, no doubt, because there's no way that's going to come out without being broken. But I have got some more ones off eBay, which cost
Yeah.
me the best part of 13 quid
Yeah,
to
amazing.
stick in there. So there we go.
So yeah, in the next episode, we will run you through exactly what it's cost to have all this work done and what it could have cost had we not done our homework
Correct.
and just bought new.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome.
Okay, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you tune into the next episode where we will reveal a fully rebuilt Murcielago along with what's probably going to be a pretty sizable bill.
Pretty sizable bill indeed.
So if you don't want to miss that, click subscribe and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.
Thanks again.